This is lesson 3 in my series, a step-by-step approach to arranging jazz standards for the piano. In lessons 1 and 2, I looked at techniques that can be used at beginner to intermediate level when arranging the jazz standard Misty. And in this lesson, I will look at more advanced techniques. Throughout this series, I will be using examples from the online music library, Tomplay. I did a review of Tomplay, and if you've not seen that, I've put a link in the description below. There is also an affiliate link to Tomplay in the description. You get a 14-day free trial during which you can cancel at any time. And if after that you decided to continue and subscribe, then I would receive a commission from Tomplay, which helps to keep my channel going. In Tomplay, there are 7 different arrangements of Misty for piano solo, ranging from very easy to upper advanced. There are also 7 different arrangements for piano with orchestral accompaniment. In the first 2 lessons, I looked at the first 3 arrangements for piano solo. That's very easy and easy to intermediate. And in this lesson, I'm going to look at some of the techniques used in the remaining 4 levels of difficulty, from intermediate going right up to upper advanced. Let's look at bar 5 now from the intermediate level arrangement. Now, if I were to just to play the melody and use the chord symbols there, I would get something like this. So the only thing I added there really was on the B flat 7, I put a 9th in as well, because the melody is the 13th. And normally, if you've got the 13th there, you kind of assume on a dominant 7th chord that you will also have the 9th. Now, what Mike Garson has done though in this arrangement is, instead of having the 3rd of B flat 7 D, he's got the 11th or suspended 4th, which then resolves to the 3rd. Now, if you look at the voice leading there, the melody note G is the 13th of B flat 7. It drops a step to the 5th. The 11th, or suspended 4th, resolves to the 3rd, goes down a step, and the 9th, C, goes down to the flat 9th. So you've got great voice leading. If you look at the top 3 notes on their own, that looks like a C minor triad, and that just looks like a B diminished triad. It's a kind of useful way of thinking about it. So you've got a little bit of tension with resolution there. Now, what you could do, you could just change that slightly and keep the melody note down as a dotted quarter note, resolve the 2 inner notes, so the 11th or suspended 4th goes to the 3rd, the 9th to the flat 9th on beat 4, and then the G, the melody note, which is a 13, doesn't go to the 5th until the and after 4. So that would be like that. In the intermediate to advanced level arrangement, Mike Garson does something slightly different on the B flat 7. He plays this. That gives you quite a lot of tension there. What we've got there on the B flat 7, the B is the flat 9th, D of course is the 3rd, E natural, that's the sharpened 11th, and the melody note G of course is still the 13th. Now that kind of tense chord sounds great when you just hang on it, and as you tend to play Misty to begin with in a rubato sort of style, you can just hold that played and then let it flow after. Again, another little bit of tension there with the sharp 9th on the A7 chord. In the advanced level arrangement in bar 5, for the B flat 7 chord, this time he just uses this voicing. Almost the same as in the last level, but without the sharpened 11th on the B flat 7, so it's not quite as tense. This is a classic example of what we call an upper structure triad on a dominant 7th chord. if you look at the top three notes, we've got B, D and G. Now if you think about them on their own, it's a G major triad 3-note chord in first inversion. If you're not familiar with the term upper structure triads, I've done a video about these before. I'll put a link in the description below. Now, rather than going straight from there to C major 7 like that, he then puts in a dominant 7th whose root note is a semitone above C major 7. In other words, a D flat 7 chord as a passing chord. Now, you can approach any major 7th, minor 7th or dominant 7th with a dominant 7th whose root is a semitone above. Just a word of caution, be careful not to overcrowd bars with too many chords. Just because you can do something doesn't mean to say that you've got to do something. But in this case, when you're playing a slow ballad, especially in a rubato style, you've got plenty of space, and therefore a passing chord can be really effective. So that sounds like this. I would just hold that a bit, and then in the upper advanced arrangement at the end of bar 5, he once again uses the D flat 7 chord to approach C major 7 at the beginning of bar 6, and then plays this. Now these are examples of what we call diatonic passing 7th chords. Now, quick reminder about what diatonic 7th chords are. They are just simply the 7th chords that you build on every degree of a scale. So we're in the key of C major, play a C major scale, build a 7th chord on each degree using only the note from that scale, and you get these 7th chords. So we call those diatonic 7th chords. Diatonic meaning that all the notes of all those chords come from the key of C major. Now, when you've got a bit of a melody that moves by step, so at the beginning of bar 6, the melody goes from E upper step to F and then to G. The E is harmonized with the C major 7 chord. You can harmonize the F with the next diatonic 7th chord, which is D minor 7, and then on the G use E minor 7, and that works particularly well because we then go from E minor 7 to A minor 7, and E minor 7 going to A minor 7 is a root progression of down a fifth, which is always a strong progression. So just another quick word of caution here with diatonic passing 7th chords is don't use it if you're overcrowding the bar with so many chords. But again, because this is a slow ballad played, certainly in the first A section, we generally play in a rubato style. You've got plenty of space to put these in. So that bit now sounds like this. In the intermediate level arrangement, there's another example in bars 20 and 21 of where these diatonic 7th chords are being used to create movement. So if you were reading this from a lead sheet, the melody in bar 20 would just show a single A, a whole note, tied to a half note in bar 21. So you would, if I just play from the bit before, it would just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then you don't play anything until beat 3. Now, this is a common problem when we're arranging jazz standards at for the piano, that when we get really long notes and the chord doesn't change, with no movement, everything just grinds to a halt. And there's various solutions to create some kind of movement. But using diatonic 7th chords as passing chords is one of them, and it can be very effective. Now, in the other example, I showed where we can use them where the melody moves by steps. In this case, we've just got a stationary melody note, the A, and although he hasn't actually written it as one long note, he's put extra little bits in. It's basically, if I just played it like this, F major 7, hold the A down, G minor 7, A minor 7. it would still work and it creates movement. This works because the note A is in all three chords. It's the third of F major 7 rather, A. It's the ninth of G minor 7 and the root of A minor 7. So the way he's done it is put extra little bits in. So remember, when it's a long note in the melody, don't feel obliged to stick rigidly to it. You're quite free, you know, once it's been stated, to then add little fills. For example, if we look at the arrangement in the intermediate to advanced level at the same two bars, bars 20 and 21, you can see that it's used the same diatonic seventh chords, but created a little bit more movement. First of all, by breaking up the F major 7 chord, instead of playing it like that, just simply plays it as a sort of arpeggio. And then makes a little bit of an inner melody here. Makes the A minor 7 chord that bit more interesting by putting the ninth next to the third there. So in the advanced level arrangement on bar 20, still uses the same diatonic passing chords. That's F major 7 going to G minor 7 to A minor 7 in bar 21. On the G minor 7, he adds a ninth there next to the third. And then just as a little run up from the G up to the C in the next bar, using a Dorian mode. That's the notes of an F major scale that's starting on G, with one added chromatic passing note, the B natural, in between. He's called it A sharp. I suppose really I would think of that as B flat and then B natural to C. So we've got the chord. Now the F sharp minor 7 there, that's a really nice voicing. There's an alternative one that you could use there, which is often referred to as the Kenny Barron voicing. Is when you've got the 11th at the top of a minor 7th chord. So that's F sharp minor 7, that's the 9th, and that is the 11th. And it's this voicing, the root, the 5th, the 9th, and then the 3rd next to the 9th. So you've got that nice little discord in the middle, and then the 7th and the 11th. So both hands have got are playing a 9th with one note in the middle. So F sharp to G sharp with C sharp in the middle, right hand, A to B with E in the middle. Just another alternative that you could use there. In the intermediate to advanced level arrangement, there's a nice little run at the end of bar 24 in thirds over a C sharp diminished 7th chord. Now remember, when you've got a diminished 7th chord, that's the C sharp diminished 7th chord. You can approach each chord note from the note a semitone below. So C to E, I can use D sharp to approach the E. And then I can approach the G from F sharp, the B flat or A sharp from A, and so on. So we end up with, out of that chord, we end up with what we call a diminished scale. Now, if you look at that little run in thirds, and just take the top notes first, it's taking those 3 notes from the C sharp diminished chord and put one passing note, C, in between the first 2. Now underneath that, it's taking these 3 notes and put one passing note, A, in between the first 2, and then joining them together, you get a nice little run in thirds. In the advanced level arrangement, at the end of bar 6, there's a nice example of how you can use a diminished 7th chord as a passing chord. It goes like this. Now, if you look at that diminished 7th chord and then add the note A below it, you end up with an A7 chord with a flat 9. If I just rearrange the notes, you can see that the B flat is the flat 9th. And that's the way it's functioning. It's functioning as a dominant 7th chord without the root. A7, of course, is the dominant of D minor. The voicing is quite interesting as well. It's like a drop 2 voicing. Drop 2 is when you take a chord, so take the diminished 7th chord and then take the next to the top note out and play that down an octave. And then on the D minor 7, again, take the next to the top note out and play it down an octave. Now, on the diminished 7th here, that next to the top note is actually left there and repeated down. It doesn't really make much difference. Still has a nice voice leading feeling. In bar 11 of the upper advanced level arrangement, there's a classic use of a pair of upper structure triads on a dominant 7th chord. So we're looking at the C7 chord, and the two upper structure triads are A flat major and G flat major. So that's a major triad on the flattened 13th of C7, A flat, and the flattened 5th, G flat. Again, I've put a link in the description below to a video I made about upper structure triads if you're not familiar with them. But very briefly, why does the A flat work? Well, A flat is the flattened 13th, C is the root, E flat is the sharpened 9th. The G flat chord, G flat is the flattened 5th, B flat the 7th, D flat the flattened 9th. And when you play them like that, first of all in root position, and then change it to second inversion, you get a nice little bit of voice lead in there. You can create movement. So you could continue to resolve onto an F major 7 chord there. Okay, well that's it for this lesson. I hope you're finding these lessons useful. If you do and you haven't done so far, I'd be really grateful if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Don't forget to try and apply these techniques to your own arrangements. And in the next video in this series, I'll be looking at the jazz standard Autumn Leaves. Thank you. See you in the next video.